Alrighty, hello people, again, whoever happens to stumble across this. I've once again forgotten to record something yesterday on my way home, so I am now recording this on my way to work. This little weekly yap sesh, like diary thing. I don't even know what it is at this point. It's just kind of a whatever, I suppose. Don't have anything in particular I want to talk about, to be honest with you. So I think I just have a couple small things that I just kind of want to yap about, and then we'll just see where the morning takes us, I suppose. So, lost 5 pounds last week, over the course of the last week. That's pretty cool. It's been pretty fucking miserable, I'm not gonna lie. That is like mostly thanks to this right here. Fucking miserable. I've gone from eating like a minimum like 500 to 600 calorie lunch to, I think this here, I've been making adjustments to it to try and figure out like exactly what my limit is, both in terms of like how many calories do I need to like function properly in the second half of the day, and also like a taste factor, because I'm not a big fan of fucking rabbit food. But that thing right there I think is around like 130-ish calories. So I'm going from like minimum 500 to 600 to 130 calories. So that's a difference of like what? We'll take the high end at 600. That's 470 calories less a day. Now granted, I'm probably eating bigger dinners. But you know, there's only so much you can eat in one sitting, and I'm trying to be mindful of like, regardless of how insanely hungry I am when dinner time comes, I'm trying to like not like over consume, because that would kind of defeat the point, you know. Trying to be fairly mindful of that. But yeah, just fucking calories in, calories out, man. That's really all the way it is. It's kind of crazy. But anyway, yeah, so that's been pretty fucking miserable. Let's talk about people and their capacity to drive. There was a gentleman in a work like box truck sort of thing for like, I looked it up because I'd never heard of him before, but it's like a uniform company. And dude, okay, so he's I'm coming down a road, right? I'm trying to turn right. Okay, I'm trying to turn right down another street. My light is green. He's on the other side trying to turn left. Meaning, if my light's green, his light can't be green, right? It has to be yield. Like, at best, right? If not just fucking red. At best, it's a yield. Dude, literally, at the same time I'm coming up to the light and starting my turn, just, like, lays on his gas and almost fucking crashes into me. Like, okay. So then, I'm looking at him like, bro, what the fuck are you doing? Because, like, I stop. Because I'm like, this dude's gonna fucking hit me if I keep going. And then he stops. I don't know if he was like on the phone or like what. He just wasn't really paying attention. Maybe he didn't see me. I don't know how that's possible. But then he stops and he like puts his arms out like, ooh. It's like, bro, what the fuck are you talking about? Like, I had to stop because if we had both continued going at the pace that we were going, you would have fucking hit me. People are crazy, man. Be safe out there, especially when you're driving. Everyone's scared of weapons, and you know, rightfully so. Everyone's scared of like guns and knives and shit. Brother, you are literally driving a murder machine around on the daily. Okay? and you're surrounded by murder machines daily. Okay? Like, if someone, just like people are like, oh, well, you know, if someone has a gun and they snap, they could kill a lot of people. Same thing for a car, bro. If someone snaps and they're in a vehicle, they can kill a lot of fucking people. Not to mention, it's like, you know, with something like guns, there's a big issue with, you know, safety in terms of you have to know how to handle it properly, or accidents can happen, right? And people can get seriously harmed or killed, right? Well, it's the same thing for cars, right? You're surrounded by people that you have no idea their qualifications for driving this murder machine around. And it's so like normalized in America that just everybody has a car. Well, you have to have a car. Everyone has to have a car. People treat it like it's a God-given right to own a car, to drive a car. Bro, you're in a multi-ton hunk of metal driving at several times faster than the fastest human being can fucking run. Like, it's dangerous. I honestly, I don't think people are scared enough of like vehicles, in all honesty, and the people controlling them in reality. Everyone's scared of like, you know, weapons, you know, knives and guns and fucking baseball bats, you know, in horror movies, chainsaws and shit, right? I'm telling you, the scariest fucking thing in your life, you're around it all day, every single day. You can't escape it if you're in America. You just don't realize it because it's been so normalized for you. It's crazy. And I think, I wonder if it's always been this way. It probably has been. There's probably always been dumb fuck drivers, but it does honestly feel like the average driver is getting worse over time. And that's probably true. It's probably just not true to the extent that I feel like it is. But just like people are getting dumber over time, at least in America, the average American is objectively just getting more and more dumb. It's just a fact, unfortunately. I think the average driver is just getting worse and worse. And I think that the car like dependency, and I'm not an anti-car person necessarily. There are people out here that are like, why do you need a car? We should just have like trains and buses going everywhere. I'm not saying that that's the case, right? I'm not we should get rid of all the cars and just replace it all with trains and buses. I'm not that guy. But the over-reliance on cars is kind of insane in America. Americans have been so like brainwashed into believing that you have to have a car, and you have to have a nice car. That's another thing. Not only do you have to have a vehicle, which to be fair, in some places you do absolutely have to have a vehicle. Like where I live, you have to have a vehicle. There's unfortunately like little to no public transit in the area where I live. So yes, you do have to have a vehicle here. But then it goes even a step further. It's you have to have a nice vehicle. And it's literally all just brainwashing by car manufacturers. Literal brainwashing. I'm not kidding. I mean that seriously. I'm dead serious. I'm not exaggerating. I am not like blowing this out of proportions. It is actual, literal social engineering fucking brainwashing, dude. And Americans have bit so hard on that bait, and we're now a fucking show trophy We're a showfish on the fucking podium right now of car companies, bro. It's crazy. I think the optimal version of transportation in this country is a good mixture of like public transportation and private vehicle ownership. Like, I've never understood why. So I live in Texas, right? I live fairly close to Houston. I've never understood why there is not a high-speed rail going between Houston, Dallas, and San Antonio. Like the three major metropolises in Texas. That would just make so much sense. Like, dude, it would be so nice. I don't know exactly how fast high-speed rails go, but I know they go crazy fucking fast. Dude, if I could take a high-speed rail from Houston to like San Antonio in like an hour versus driving there for like 5 hours, or I guess probably be like 4 hours, I think. That would make going there so much like I could do that on a weekend. You know what I mean? I could do that on a day. I could get up from where I live, which is about an hour and a half, 2 hours away from Houston. We'll say 2 hours away. I drive to Houston. I get on a train. I fucking high-speed rail over to fucking San Antonio. Like, if I get up at 4 a.m., let's say, which is an early day, but like I've done shit like this before. I could get up at 4 a.m., be in Houston at 6 a.m. for like when the trains start running, let's say. And then I'm in Houston or San Antonio for 7 a.m. And then I could spend the whole day in fucking San Antonio. I could take the last train back to Houston, be back in Houston at, let's say, like 7 or 8 o'clock, and then I'm home for like 9 or 10. I can literally just take a day trip to San Antonio and spend the entire day in San Antonio, rather than being like, okay, well, I have to drive from my house like 4 hours, 5 hours. I want to say it's like 5.5 from where I live. But we'll say 5 just because I'm a little uncertain on the specifics. I've only been to San Antonio a couple times. We'll say it's 5, right? Okay, so if I want to spend the whole day in San Antonio, again, let's assume like 7 to 7, right? That means I have to get up at 2 a.m. I know that's only a 2-hour difference, but man, does that, like, when I say that out loud, I'm instantly like, no. No fucking way. No shot. I have to get up at 2 a.m., drive to San Antonio, and then I leave at 7 so I can spend a full 12 hours in San Antonio, right? Meaning I'm getting back home at midnight the next fucking day. Yeah, dude, no thanks. That sounds fucking miserable. So, okay, what's the alternative? Also, not to mention, that's 10 hours of fucking drive time. 10 hours of drive time in a single day? Yeah, no, I'm good. It turns what could be a day trip into a weekend trip. Now it's, well, we have to go either like Friday evening or Saturday morning, and then we'll come back Sunday evening, right? Because I'm not driving 10 hours in a single fucking day. Like, for just like a little, little trip, little day trip. That's not fucking happening. And I live in Texas, and what I've come to learn dating someone who lived in Pennsylvania and comes from the Northeast area is my capacity to drive is a lot greater than people from other states, right? In Texas, here's what I've come to learn. In Texas, people will be like, yeah, it's like a 2-hour drive. And Texans will be like, okay, cool. Like, we can do that. Sure, let's do it. And apparently that is very not normal for people in smaller states. It's probably, I would assume California would kind of have a similar thing. Although California is kind of weird because it's skinny. Kind of the same thing for Florida. It's fairly skinny. But I mean, you can drive for, like 10 hours in Florida, I'm pretty sure. I think if I remember correctly, because I went to Disney World when I was like a little kid. And I think when we hit the Florida border, because we were in like the Panhandle or whatever it's called, it was still another like 10 hours to Disney World. So you can drive for a long time in Florida if you are going across the long part of it, not the skinny part. Same thing for California, I would assume. But anyway, point being, I don't mind driving what other people would consider ridiculous distances for like day trips and stuff, because it's normalized for me, right? It's the word of the day, I suppose. Jesus Christ. But even I'm like 10-hour drive in one day? No. 0% chance. So what does that look like now, right? Okay, well now I have to like get a hotel. I have to bring clothes in like a suitcase or a bag or something, because I'm going to be staying overnight. It's just like way more of a hassle. It becomes less of a thing that you could just be like, yeah, let's just do it today. We have the day off today. We have a bit of extra cash. Like, let's just take a little trip to San Antonio. And it becomes more like okay, we got to plan this. Like, we got to buy a hotel room. We got to pack up our shit. Like, it just becomes more of a headache. You know what I mean? So it really confuses me that there isn't like a high-speed rail between the three big-ass fucking cities in Texas. It just doesn't make sense. It seems so obvious. But it's literally just all about the money, essentially. It's all about the money, man. Because the railroads are owned by like companies that use them to like transport materials, right? So then you run into a situation where, well, how do we get high-speed rails on these railroads? Well, you either have to lay new tracks, which is like wildly expensive, and you'd have to get the government to approve that crazy amount of spending, which the government doesn't like spending money on anything other than murdering people and keeping their own citizens incapacitated. And so okay, building new tracks isn't an option. So then, what do you have to do? Oh, also, as much as the citizens might want new tracks to be built, guess what? The car manufacturers that give probably billions of dollars in funding to both sides of the political aisle, they're not going to let that happen. They're going to be like, okay, well, if you want to build new tracks, then we'll, kind of devalue our shit, the infrastructure or whatever, then we're going to support someone who doesn't want to build tracks. We'll throw our money behind somebody else. And so then you go into the other thing, which is, can you use the tracks that are already built? And yes, you can. You would have to work out a deal with the companies who own them, right? Because this is how it works currently with Amtrak, which is the current public transportation for trains. And I've only ever heard bad things about it, but I learned relatively recently that how Amtrak works is they operate on the same rails that are owned by the railway companies, right? But they have kind of a thing in place where the railway companies, they get something from the government. I don't remember if it's like benefit or like tax related or what, but they get some shit apparently. But Amtrak gets essentially like right of way on all of the railroads, on all the tracks. But that doesn't always fucking happen. In fact, it very frequently does not happen. Again, the reason I learned this is because I heard about, or I was listening to somebody talk about, there was some issue where this Amtrak, these people on this Amtrak were held up for like hours, like a lot of hours. I think it was like 8 hours or something like that. It was an insane amount of time because they were waiting for like this commercial railway to pass. And so yeah, it doesn't always happen. They just kind of like, you know, don't care sometimes. And apparently that happens fairly frequently, and apparently the government just doesn't do anything about it. They don't like hold the railway companies accountable or anything, which is pretty par for the course. Because I'm sure the railway companies give a lot of money to the politicians too. So it's like, they're going to be like, hey, you broke the rules. And it's going to be like, do you want our funding? Hey, you're good. Don't worry about it. Yeah, that's what I thought. So you're just kind of like in a lose-lose. Oh, also, once again, the car manufacturers, like they're going to be donating, you know, again, probably billions of dollars to make sure that public transportation in general doesn't happen. Because if you increase public transportation, you're going to decrease, you know, private car ownership. And they don't want that. That's less money in their pocket. And so they're going to donate, you know, billions of dollars to fucking politicians to make sure that that doesn't happen. So it's unfortunate. This country is a little fucked. I think honestly most of the problems in this country could honestly be solved, well, one, with term limits, so you can get new people in there. At least force these fucking companies to have to go talk to new people at the bare minimum, right? Shorter term limits would be nice. Get new people in there fairly quick. But also, there should probably be rules around how much places can donate. And you got to get rid of all the loopholes where it's like, oh, well, they're not really, you know, they're not campaign donating directly. They're part of this, you know, super PAC and blah, blah, blah. Yeah. Ring around the rosy. You gotta cut all that shit out. You really do. You just gotta cut all that shit out. There needs to be like a limit on how much corporations can like donate to these fucking campaigns. So then it'll kind of force them to do it all under the table, which they will, which they already do. Don't worry, they already do. If you put way lower, you know, way smaller limits on how much money these companies can donate to politicians through their PACs and super PACs and all that shit, they'll start doing it under the table. They'll start increasing the amount that they're doing under the table because they're already doing it, I promise you. And at least whenever that happens, if you force them to do way more under the table and then you increase the amount of people they have to deal with, it'll become very public knowledge very quickly what's going on. So I think a lot of people are in denial. They like to think that that all is well and that, you know, this kind of stuff doesn't happen. But it does. It's unfortunate, but it does. The world is ran by greedy motherfuckers. What are you going to do about it? But, again, the people who have to pass these changes are the people getting paid right now. You think they're going to do that? No, they're not going to do that. So, unless people break out the guillotines and go French style, not much you can do. Anyway, I got to head into work and get this uploaded over company Wi-Fi, which is not great. So, this kind of just turned into a rant about transportation, but anyway, I guess that's what you signed up for.